Here this morning in Heidelberg at 1:30. Angus is a famous Australian author. He's a TV star. He's a plant grower, a bit of an all-rounder in the industry, and probably been in it longer than I've been alive. So very proud and lucky to have you here today, and thank you very much for your time.
Good on you, David. Thank you.
Just one more thing.
Yeah.
We've got here a list of the books that are currently available, so I'm going to pass it around, and if you would like a copy, we can order it for you today, and then obviously contact you once it arrives. So I'll pass this around, and if you're interested, just write your name and number down and which book you're after, and we'll get those ordered for you as well.
Very good. So yes, we've got the lucky door prize, and so that's going to be drawn after the talk. So this is actually a bit of a collector's item because I published this book, I think, close to 15 years ago, and the original edition was hardcover. And when that sold out, they brought it out as my publisher brought it out as a paperback, and we changed the title slightly to the Waterwise Australian Native Garden, and that's what's available now. But yeah, it was a bit hard to get copies here in time for the talk. So whoever gets this, you can't buy this one anymore. So I'm very proud of this one. It's sold about 40,000 copies over the 15 years and won an award. So it's one of the ways that I want to get the message out about how to get the best out of native plants in your garden, because there's a lot of misconceptions around native plants. They are very tough, resilient plants in general, but when you give them a bit of tender loving care, and that's what I want to talk about today, how to get them to perform to their absolute best. Because when you see the plants grown in nurseries like this, they are getting tender loving care. So they've got a beautiful, well-drained potting mix full of fertiliser. They get watered whenever they need to be watered, and this is the end result. You get these stunning examples of what these plants can do when you give them the right growing conditions. So the other thing today too is I call these sort of talks a bit of a stream of consciousness. So I've picked out a whole lot of plants behind me to talk about, but I'll talk about whatever you want to learn about. So if you've got a question that comes to mind, just put your hand up, and yeah, chances are other people are thinking the same sort of thing. So I'll just start talking about various plants and various issues that I know from 40 years of doing talks like this that a lot of people want to know about. So yeah, but don't be scared to ask a question if there's a burning issue that you've got with your own garden and native plants. So for 40 years, I've been breeding new varieties of kangaroo paws. So I know this is one, I'd like $1 for every time a gardener has said, I don't have much luck with kangaroo paws. So I'm going to start with that one. So there are two types of kangaroo paws in the market. There are long-lived perennial ones, which tend to be taller, and there are these dwarf varieties, which you tend to see available mostly in nurseries. Probably not the best way to give it tender loving care, but anyway, it's resilient too. So unbreakable. Unbreakable, yeah. So the reason you see a lot of these dwarf varieties in the market is because they make a stunning pot plant, and given ideal conditions, they perform to their full potential. However, in a garden situation, one of the things that these dwarf varieties need, because of their genetics, so in Western Australia they grow generally the wild species that are smaller, grow in very well drained soils, and that's the conditions they thrive in. and generally they only live for a couple of years, the species that we've used to breed the smaller varieties of kangaroo paw. But there's one species called flavitus. Anyone heard of flavitus, the tall kangaroo paw? You see them a lot in gardens, and the species flavitus grows from Margaret River across to Albany, and it's that high. The problem with that in the nursery is for retailers to have a big flowering plant like that. It costs a lot to actually get them into the nursery because you can't fit as many on a truck. And it's going to get worse, obviously, with the cost of diesel now. When they're in flower, people want to see what they're getting. So these dwarf ones, you can transport them easier and flower them beautifully in a pot. But they need more specialised conditions. So if you want to grow these dwarf ones, and generally a lot of the varieties will flower pretty much most of the year, but I grow them in pots and in rockeries. So if you've got a really well-drained sandy soil, the dwarf varieties will perform. In any sort of hint of clay in the soil, they tend to be short-lived. So that's why you tend not to see the taller ones in the marketplace in nurseries, not because they're not good varieties. They're exceptionally long-lived plants, and they're very, you can actually mow them off down to the ground after they flower and they bounce back, whereas the dwarf varieties, not so much. So I brought out a range called the Tall and Tough range. So if you want to find those tall ones, you can actually buy the straight flavitus species. It's widely available in native nurseries, but the colour is not as great as a lot of these ones. So I'm breeding a whole lot of new ones, and I've teamed up with the Greenery, and so in future we'll be releasing a whole lot of my new taller varieties. But the good news too is these long-lived perennial kangaroo paws, I've also been able to get the height down now, so they're becoming along at about half the height of the flavitus. So basically I've got a whole range coming. Probably next year we'll be able to release them. But in the meantime, these shorter ones too, there's a couple of points I want to make. Ink spot. So the blackening of the leaf, you can see here, these have got what's called ink spot. So a lot of these shorter varieties are quite susceptible to fungal leaf diseases, that anything that causes the leaf to die will cause it to turn black. So it's just inherent in kangaroo paws. They produce all sorts of interesting pigments. So any death of the tissue tends to cause that blackening. So in this case, it is a fungal disease. So you get these round spots, hence the name ink spot. But I can also tell you that over 40 years, I've learnt that anything that stresses the plant will cause the leaves to turn black. So you'll get a generalised blackening of the leaf, and particularly when the plants get hungry. So kangaroo paws, this is one of the myths about native plants generally, is they don't need much fertiliser. They will survive without it, but if you give kangaroo paws a good feed after you've cut them back, you'll get 2 or 3 times as many flowers the next year. So with my tall varieties, I actually I live in Tasmania now, out in the country. I've got a 40-acre farm, and so I've got a septic system, and with a drainage system that comes off that. So I plant my tall kangaroo paws on that septic line because they get all the extra water and all the extra nutrients from the septic system, and I've got plants there that have got 200 stems on them. So that's what happens when you water and feed your kangaroo paws. Another thing too about a lot of native plants is phosphorus. So you probably all know about native plant fertilizers. So we have specific fertilizers for native plants. Is that a new concept to anyone? So basically the reason for that is there are groups of native plants like grevilleas that are very, very efficient at extracting nutrients from the soil. And in particular, phosphorus is very low in a lot of Australian bush soils. So because the plants have formed root systems which are really efficient at extracting phosphorus, if you give them the sort of phosphorus levels you put on your citrus trees or your roses, this particular grevillea will suck up too much of it, and all that discoloration you're seeing on the foliage is, I'm pretty certain, too much phosphorus. So there are ways you can counteract that. If you see something like that happening on your grevilleas, waratahs, banksias, if you give them a dose of iron sulfate, the iron actually will combine with the extra phosphorus in the soil, and you can reverse it to a certain extent. But the main thing is to make sure that if you're going to grow the phosphorus sensitive native plants like this, that then your soil doesn't have too much phosphorus to begin with. So if you've taken over an old garden and you've had roses and citrus and so on that have had that phosphorus rich fertilizer, if you plant something like a grevillea in that spot, it's likely that the soil will already have too much phosphorus. But the learning for me over a career of 40 plus years in growing native plants is that there are a whole lot of native plants which are not phosphorus sensitive. So kangaroo paws are one of them. So in the nursery, we can actually give them a potting mix which gives them the ideal amount of all the nutrients they need. So the learning for me is that kangaroo paws actually need about the same level of phosphorus as, say, a rose or a citrus tree. The only problem is if you've got a native garden and you've got a kangaroo paw growing next to a phosphorus sensitive grevillea, then the obvious issue is if you use a fertilizer that's got the normal phosphorus level, this one's growing fine, but that one is going to have a phosphorus toxicity. So I actually helped to formulate a fertilizer called Bush Tucker, which you might have seen around. So that one is formulated to have a phosphorus level which is good for phosphorus sensitive plants, but it's got enough phosphorus to grow a really good kangaroo paw. Or other groups that are not phosphorus sensitive are things like your eucalyptus family, so tea trees, callistemons, melaleucas, flowering gums. If you've got a soil that already has a fairly high phosphorus level, these plants will be okay to plant into that garden. It's really the Banksia, the Proteaceae family, that is most phosphorus sensitive. So that's one big issue that we've learned a lot about over the last 45 years. And the thing too I'd also say about phosphorus and native plants is that it's not a all or nothing issue. So there are various levels of sensitivity. So this, I would suggest, is at the very high end of the sensitivity level. So I'm sure the grower has had it in a mix which will accommodate a lot of the Proteaceae, but this one I know comes from Western Australian species, which are probably grown with virtually zero phosphorus in the wild. So, yeah, some are really, really sensitive. Others, not sensitive at all. But there's a spectrum within that as well. So, like I say, if you're seeing generally the symptoms are oranging colour in the leaf, the older leaves start to grow orange and then brown, like this grevillea. So if you see that, you can use that iron sulphate treatment to lock up the phosphorus and make it less available. So that's one of the messages I give. Yeah, if you've got an established garden and you think you've got too high a phosphorus level, is grow those native plants which are not so sensitive. And one of the groups that I've been working on with my breeding lately is the everlasting daisy. So this is another group that's not phosphorus sensitive. So yeah, it's falls into the category in the nursery industry we call potted colour. So it's bringing a bit of bling to your native garden is how I like to think about it. So yeah, I've bred kangaroo paws, and they obviously bring colour and birds into your garden. But the everlasting daisy group is an extraordinary group of native plants. They have the papery bracts, which make them great for floristry, but they also attract an incredible range of pollinators to your garden. So honeybees, native bees, hoverflies. So if you're trying to create habitat in your garden for birds, and some of the butterflies are a great pollinator of everlasting daisies. You get the monarch butterflies and all sorts of interesting butterfly species. So I'm very interested in the concept of creating wildflower meadows. So it's something that you see in a lot of the gardening books from the Northern Hemisphere. It's a real trend in Europe now to have these drifts of perennials and a more naturalistic sort of garden. And so a lot of, there are quite a few Australian gardening books now which are getting into that concept of the wildflower meadow. So how about we do it with Australian plants, is what I've been thinking over the last 10 years. Since I bought my farm in Tassie, I've been breeding obviously more kangaroo paws, but the everlasting daisy group is another one that I think is underrepresented in our gardens. So these aren't my varieties. Mine are going to be released next year, but there's some fantastic ones already on the market that you can find here. And this one's an interesting one. There's a mate of mine, Peter Renshaw from Bylong Nursery, who has started breeding everlastings as well. And he's coming up with ones that are more perennial. So you've got the highly coloured ones, often are a bit short-lived, like the dwarf kangaroo paws, but they're also, my mate Peter and I are more interested in long-lived plants. So I'm trying to breed more perennial species, or perennial hybrids. So new varieties that will last for a number of years in your garden. So the existing sort of coloured varieties like this make good short-term plants. They're often bred from annual forms, so they bring beautiful colour for quite a few months, and then they actually will seed themselves, and the seed often will self-seed in your garden, especially if you've got a gravel path or mulch like this. The seeds will come up spontaneously, and that creates a nice naturalistic effect as well. So yeah, there's a few different ways you can work on those. These little native daisies, the Brachyscombs, that's their botanical name, or native daisy. the common name. And these are beautiful sort of wildflower meadow plants as well. And a lot of these tend to be perennial. There are some that are annual as well, but most of the when I started, they were brachycomb daisies, and then the botanists decided to make it more complicated, so they decided they needed an S in the middle of the name. So you see them now as brachyscomb. Bit of a mouthful, but native daisy, small native daisy. They're fantastic little meadow type plants, and I have got one called Mauve Mystery out in the marketplace, which is a really good long-lived perennial native daisy. I call it Mauve Mystery because it can either, on the same plant, you can have mauve flowers, but sometimes it throws white ones, and sometimes it throws flowers which are white and mauve together on the same flower. So it's a bit of a mystery why it does that.
Blooming period?
The blooming period for those is about 9 months of the year. So all through the warmer months, they slow down a bit in winter. So it's a good point that you raise, actually, with your everlasting daisies. A lot of these are bred for long flowering, so they'll flower all through the warmer months. But make sure you deadhead them if you want them to keep flowering. So I did a little bit of deadheading on this one, in fact, and that flower is finished, so it's turning brown, and if you want it to go to seed, just let it go and the seed will blow around. But if it's you'll get a much better display if you either go around and pinch off the old flower heads, or just I'm a bit brutal in the garden. I get out the whippersnipper and you know, my tall kangaroo paws, I run over them with the mower. One point though, with when you're pruning back your kangaroo paws, the colour comes from little hairs on the flower, and as the flower dries out, those little hairs flake off, and if you get one in your eye, it's very painful. So it's a good idea to wear some glasses and protective long sleeves. Same with grevilleas too, actually. Before I was chatting, here it is, Robin Gordon. Yeah, yes, the lady in front here, we're having a conversation about pruning of Robin Gordon. Anyone not know the plant Grevillea Robin Gordon? Most of you know it, but this was one of the original native plants that I think caused a bit of a revolution. It's a hybrid of Western Australian species and one from Queensland, and it was revolutionary because this one flowers all year round, and suddenly there was this beautiful grevillea you could plant with these big red flower heads, and it never stops flowering. And it's actually, being a hybrid, it doesn't set seed either. So it basically, the flowers drop off, and it's sort of self-cleaning in a way, but it does do better if you give it the occasional pruning. But it does have a chemical in the leaf which causes skin allergy for people. So some of you will be susceptible, some not. So when you're pruning kangaroo paws and grevilleas, long sleeves are a good idea, gloves, and with the paws especially, somebody to protect your eyes to stop those little hairs getting in there. But pruning is a really important issue. A lot of misinformation that native plants don't need pruning. They respond exactly the same as non-native plants. So it's about learning how the plant flowers and then adjusting your pruning accordingly. So when it comes to pruning, a bit of maintenance pruning will go a long way to giving you the best possible plant. So with let me see. I picked out a few. These are good examples. The Waratah you're all familiar with. That flowers in spring. And then you've got this one as a Pimelia or rice flower. This one grows in my neighbourhood in Tasmania. Beautiful Pimelia nivea. But the key I wanted to talk about is with the pruning, where you've got a big flush of flowers in spring, and that's the only time the plant flowers. Prune them straight after they finish flowering, just behind the old spent flowers, and give them a feed at the same time. So with your Waratah, you want to give it it is phosphorus sensitive, so make sure you give it that specialist native plant fertiliser, low in phosphorus, and you'll get this big spurt of growth through the late spring and into autumn. It sets new flower buds, and that's your next display the following spring. So really important with plants, native plants or any ornamental plant that flowers once a year. Good rule of thumb, give it a trim after it flowers, and then give it a feed, and that'll set it up for the following year, and also keep the plant nice and compact. But what do you do with something that flowers all year round? How do you prune that? Well, the rule of thumb I use there, and a lot of grevilleas and some of the kangaroo paws do flower most of the year. So what I suggest is when you get a big flush of flowers, give it a prune after that. So it might mean cutting off a few flower buds, and I know I have great difficulty pruning off flower buds, but it's worth it because you'll then get another big flush all at once. So the plants like the Robin Gordon can get a bit leggy and not looking their best if you never prune them. So yeah, we're running out of time a bit. So yeah, I want to take some questions.
Kangaroo paw. I was given one of those raw ones recently in a pot, and I didn't ask them what they potted it in, the people that gave it to me. Should I re-pot it in a native mix, or should I wait a certain time of year?
Sure, yeah. So did everyone hear the question? Yeah, good. Yeah, being not sensitive to phosphorus, you can just use a really good quality potting mix, and the best indication of the Australian standards ticks. So the premium potting mix I'd recommend for that, because it's got good nutrition in it. So if you repot it into that, you won't go wrong. And also, yeah, a slightly bigger pot will give you a better, the plant will just get bigger. So kangaroo paws expand in a sort of circular pattern. So the clump is growing around the outside most vigorously, and it'll just keep expanding out to in a circle-like pattern. So yeah, just you can pot it any time too. Yep.
So in terms of propagation, they have to be like within the acidic range or the premium sitting between I don't know,
Sure.
6.5 or it's enough.
So yeah, the question there was about those potting mixes. So I'll come back to that point about phosphorus. So most native plants actually are not as phosphorus sensitive as you might imagine. So there are specific native plant potting mixes, and I would recommend those for your grevilleas, waratahs, the phosphorus sensitive plants I've talked about, and things like your kangaroo paws and flowering gums and so on. They can go in the general purpose Australian standards premium mix. So yeah, I think that's my best rule of thumb I can give you.
repotted your kangaroo paw in native mix?
If you just repot into a native mix, what I'd look for is if you get a bit of leaf blackening, that's the canary in the coal mine. It's telling you it's hungry. So it's like, you know, you take the kids out for an outing and by about 3 o'clock they're getting hangry. That's your kangaroo paw getting hangry when the leaves are turning black like that. You can give it a bit of liquid fertiliser, but basically potting mixes, you often get what you pay for. So the old cheapo potting mix often doesn't have a lot of nutrition in it. So yeah, the plant will tell you with the kangaroo paw if it's going black that it needs a bit more nutrition.
And about pruning the kangaroo paw, like the annual one.
Yep.
So how far back should you cut?
Yeah, great question. So pruning these shorter varieties, because they're more sensitive plants that are prone to kind of dying back, what I recommend is each shoot, imagine that's a shoot without a flower. I sometimes referred to as a leaf fan because you get half a dozen leaves, and when that reaches a certain level of maturity, it pushes up a flower stem. So each leaf fan only flowers once, and when that flower, you can see this one's starting to lose its colour, and it's basically that shoot that produced that flower is not going to flower again, and gradually those leaves will die back. So I'd recommend getting in with your clippers and cutting it as low as possible, taking out, as well as the old flower stem, the leaves that formed it as well. So yeah, but like I say, the tall kangaroo paws, you just hit them with a whippersnipper after they flower, because the other thing to say there is they only flower once a year. That generally the tall varieties, I'm working on making them flower all year round, but that's taking a little bit longer. So yeah, in the meantime, just mowing them off and giving them feed, they'll take it.
I've got an Australian new, this one here.
Yes.
All right, and it was doing beautifully, and all of a sudden this is what we ended up with.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
It's not planted in a pot. It's in the ground.
Okay, so we've got a native mint bush, or Prostanthera. Actually belongs to the mint family, like your herb, spearmint, and so on. But they are quite, I'd say, short-lived shrubs generally. So they're quite prone, like a lot of the bronias, if you get a bit of root rot in your soil, that's what kills them often. So
We put too much water on it.
yeah, they like water, but not prolonged waterlogging. So with root rot, generally there are groups of native plants like mint bushes and beronias. If you have a very prolonged wet period and the soil stays a bit waterlogged, that's when these root diseases will take hold and often kill the plant. So good, yeah. Whilst they do need water to perform, if it stays around the roots, that's when you'll get that problem with the yes. So yeah. So yes, you need things like callistemons, melaleucas, tea trees. They love that extra clay, the tall kangaroo paws. So choosing plants that can tolerate it if the soil gets a bit waterlogged from time to time is my approach to that issue.
When would you use the liquid fertilizer versus a granular?
Okay, liquid versus granular fertilizer. So with the bush tucker, we've got there's a pelleted form based on it's an organic sort of organically based product, and I like to use that as my base fertilizer. So when I'm planting my natives, when I dig my planting hole, dig it a lot bigger than the diameter of the pot, so you've got nice loose soil for the roots to get out into, And instead of just dropping the fertiliser in the bottom of the hole, mix it into the soil that you're going to backfill. So your root system will grow out, but you also want to encourage it down. So liquids are good as a supplement, but really, yeah, having that solid fertiliser in the planting, in the backfill is absolutely perfect. If you've got an established plant, you can sprinkle it on top, but fertiliser has to dissolve in water before the plant can take it up. So that's where, if you want to give your plant an instant boost, that's where the liquid comes in. But solid fertiliser is the most cost-effective way of feeding your plants, and getting that into the planting hole is ideal. If you've got mulch down, pull the mulch back, you know, spread some pellets evenly around the outside of the shrub or plant, and yeah, that'll wash in every time it rains. So yeah.
In the Mornington Peninsula, you're growing in basically grey sand, re-fertilising. A lot of natives struggle and die off. Is it best to just go with the granular fertiliser? Is that the way to take it?
Okay, yeah. So Mornington Peninsula, sandy soil. So yeah, you've got the clay soils we've talked a bit about, but sandy soils are a whole other thing, where you've got the perfect drainage, which gives you the conditions for things like your, you know, more sensitive varieties. But sand doesn't hold much water, and it also doesn't hold much fertiliser or nutrients. So that's where the pellets will give you a longer kind of release of nutrients. You do have the controlled release fertilisers, things like Osmocote and Nutricote. They're an expensive way of feeding, but we use them all the time in potting mixes because you can time the release to what the plant needs. So you can buy those controlled release fertilisers that'll release in 3 months up to 2 years. So like I say, it's a more expensive way of feeding, but if you really got the money and you want to get the very best out of your native plants, they're another option. But the pelletised bush tucker is also probably not. It'll give you probably about 6 months, and then yeah, you can sort of top it up from time to time. But underfeeding is one of the things I think that one of the reasons why native plants are often not performing to their full potential. How are we going for time, David? Are we? Yeah, okay. We've got one more question, and then we'll draw the book prize.
I've gone from, I'm sort of doing like a mass planting area, and I had lots of camellias and azaleas, and they're all dying because outside my property there's a huge plane tree. The roots coming in and it's sucking all the moisture out. So I've decided to go totally native. So I'm not going to survive.
Yeah, okay. That's a great question. So if you didn't hear it, it's an established garden with camellias and azaleas, did you say? Or yeah. So shrubby flowering plants, but there's a massive plane tree nearby, and anytime you've got big trees like this, you're going to not only struggle for sunlight, but their roots are going all over the place and sucking all the water and nutrients out. So in my experience, most of these beautiful flowering plants will struggle to reach their potential. You can create raised beds is one way of creating better conditions, so you can get them more nutrients and water, but they're still going to struggle a bit for sunlight. So what I tend to look at in that situation are foliage plants. So interesting looking foliages, so like this baby blue gum tree. There's a whole lot of beautiful purple leaf native plants now coming onto the market. This is Agonis After Dark, which is one. There are beautiful tea trees called Copper Glow, Starry Night, So you'll get this beautiful year-round colour with the foliage, and if you get flowering, it's a bonus. But really, yeah, it's going to be very difficult to grow a really flowery garden, because most of these beautiful flowering displays need a lot higher level of light. So it's a tricky situation. Yeah. Alrighty, well, we better stop there because I've got to get over to Heidelberg as well. But yes, we've got the book prize.
All right, so David's going to come up. Please put your hand up if you don't have a raffle ticket. Honesty is great, thank you. 1 ticket per person. We'll just hand those out. Thanks everybody for coming. We haven't held an event like this for a long time, so thank you for coming. It's been amazing. Thank you, Angus, for spending the time, and everybody. You've done a great job. Wonderful.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming, folks, because I really am passionate about more Australian plants in our gardens. I love all plants, and yeah, roses are favourite in Tasmania, and absolutely no shade, pardon the pun, on those non-native plants, but I've always felt that native plants were a bit underrepresented, and now we're creating all these hopefully new improved ones that can do all the things that a lot of those well-established non-native plants do in the garden as well. So thanks for your enthusiasm. It's wonderful to see. So,
All right, so we'll draw this one. I also wanted to say, while we're picking that, everyone should have got a 5% off Australian Natives voucher. Grab one of those as well if you didn't grab one. That's just valid for today, so for the attendees that came. So if you do buy any Australian Natives, you will get a discount up at the counter. And the winner of our beautiful book is our small numbers. So I hope you got your glasses on. They're all yellow tickets. So it's yellow ticket number 663. 570.
Hey, bingo!
Well done. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
I'll check it. Yep, that's the one.
Thanks very much.
I'll sign it for you.
Oh, there
You
you go.
already did.
I've just done best wishes, but I'll.
You put
Do you want me to sign it to you
Yeah,
personally?
that'd be great.
Yeah.
and also, guys,
Tony's, you know. Tony and Carol.
learning about
Carol with a C.
Yeah, with no E on the end.
newsletter mailing list. So if you're not a part of that, we can sign.
What can you plant under an oak tree?
Under an oak tree, things like these foliage plants, I think, generally. I mean, some of these sort of native daisies like this will give you some flowers, yeah. But just be aware that they're not going to flower as well as they will in a pot. But you've got this beautiful silvery leaf thing. So yeah, and the foliage plants. There's.
I will see you at Heidelberg.
Okay, cheers. So yeah, lamandras. If you know the mat rushes. There's over here. I think, these kind of lamandras give you that